Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Team Empowered Aging live stream. I'm Susannah Meyer, the Executive Director for Empowered Aging, and we are welcoming you to our Managers Team live stream to bring a little bit of our world into your space and to connect with the community and let them know what's going on at our agency and tell you some stories about the people we serve, share a little bit about our programs and any updates. So before we get started, everyone's going to introduce themselves as they speak, and I'm going to tell you what our topic is and then share a little bit about the programs that we offer. So we are primarily an ombudsman agency, which means we've been providing protection against abuse and neglect and support for quality of life for residents of long-term care, older adults, and adults with disabilities for over 50 years. We are currently in Contra Costa, our primary our foundation county, and we also serve Alameda and Solano. And throughout the three counties, we've got some different programs available. We've done some expansion when it comes to the resources we provide. So Ombudsman, as I said, is our primary program, but we also have in Solano County, we have friendly visiting and telephone reassurance. We also have an elder justice program. We have an MSW internship program through which we bring in MSW students from our local universities and help them to become empowered with working on site with Ombudsman and hopefully maybe even getting into geriatrics as a field and continuing in that work. We also have a healthcare career pathway program, which was actually recognized by the governor as a pilot program for the Master Plan for Aging, through which we bring in students with addressable barriers and through a 12-week intensive course offer wraparound services and help them to earn a CNA certification so that they can, again, hopefully work in the geriatric field and continue this work and support the same people that we do. So today's topic is storytelling. And the last time we met, we talked a bit about mental health. And it led to some stories at that time that really give you an idea of the work that we're doing, the people that we're meeting, the fact that we've got histories and stories to tell, and the people that we serve have all got a whole life behind them. And because of that, it puts us in the positioning of reminding people that are watching today and the people in our community that support us that someone is not forgotten once they enter a long-term care facility and once they become a victim of crime and need the support of our elder justice program. It's our job to remind everyone that there's a humanity here. The people we serve have a history. They still have identities. They have wants, they have needs and emotions and feelings and fears. And they are still people. And if you're not seeing them day to day at the senior centers or the grocery store, at your neighborhood park, we should not forget them. We should not forget that all of the people we serve have histories that are really valid and interesting and make them valuable people that deserve to be heard. So today's topic is really to bring some of these stories to you and help you understand the humanity. And I keep going back to that word because it is critical to the work that we're doing. We're working so hard to make sure that the people behind the scenes, the ones you're not seeing out in public, are still recognized and represented. So we're going to tell a few stories. We're going to have some discussion around this. And we hope that you enjoy. As you watch along, you'll get some links to learn about how you can support us, how you can volunteer with us, because we are constantly looking for volunteer support. Volunteers for friendly visiting, volunteers for ombudsman work, administrative work, ambassadors, party planners, anything that you'd like to do, we can basically put you to work. So those links will be showing up in the chat as we go, and that way you can join us and you can take part in the work we're doing a little bit more directly if you'd like to. I'm going to remind you, of course, we are a nonprofit and we are definitely thriving the more donations we get as well. So if you would like to help us in that way, we absolutely appreciate it. We're going to start with Charmaine Brent, who's going to introduce herself and tell a story about someone that she's worked with.
Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Charmaine Brent. I'm the Director of Programs and Services. The last time you were with us, I was the program manager, in Alameda County. And this story comes from really being in that role. I've served as a certified ombudsman for nearly 3 years in Alameda County in various roles. But the story that I want to bring forward to you today is really near and dear to my heart. It was in the beginning stages of me in the leadership role in Alameda County as an ombudsman lead supervisor. But it really just set the stage of understanding the work that we do, why it is so important for our community at large to not forget about our seniors, to remember that they do have lives and have lived lives. And sometimes they may find themselves in skilled nursing or assisted living or even independent living. But this particular resident, his sister reached out to our office, and she was concerned that her brother had not had his dentures for like 2 years. They had requested this from the facility and they didn't see it as a big deal. When I went to the facility, everyone was just like, it's just dentures. I mean, what is the big deal? So when I saw him, he was very frail, almost like in a fetal position. And I knew instantly others that provided care had made a decision for the care that he was going to receive. It appeared as if they're like, why should we invest as much in dentures when, we're taking care of him, we're keeping him clean, we're bathing him. But come to find out, after interacting with this resident, he couldn't speak a lot, but he could let you know, he could communicate and let you know what he was happy about, what he was sad about. And so I asked him about his dentures, and he pointed to his mouth, and you can clearly see that he was sad. So, his sister ended up calling while I was there. Well, I'm gonna find out the reason because they were saying, and he doesn't eat, because I asked why he was so small. And they said, well, he doesn't eat, he doesn't like to eat. Well, spending this time with the resident, it come to find out that he was depressed. He was truly depressed because he did not have his dentures. His mouth hurt when he ate, so he wasn't really eating. So the staff assumed that he really just didn't want to eat. And, he's just, he's going to be 90 pounds. That's what it's going to be. But after working with the facility and his sister, I worked to get his dentures. And also for him to have physical therapy, because it's like, he was just forgotten about. And then I learned from his sister his story. And his story was he lived a life. He worked at a local supermarket where he was well known, but some devastating incidents happened in his life. He lost his daughter, he lost his wife, and he got into an accident that limited his ability and mobility. And so he was depressed. And so I always would tell my staff, no one should have a tumultuous end, meaning when we're at that stage of our life, it should not be a power struggle. It should not be all kind of confusion. You should not warehouse me. You should know who I am. And so I made it my business that they know or knew who he was and advocated for him. And I would come and he would smile. And when he had his dentures, he would smile. Even his roommates would smile and said, that lady did that for him. And it started with just dentures, but it changed his life. And he lived like 2 years after that. He recently passed, but it all started with dentures. So I know we get caught up in our daily lives, but we're all going to age at some point, and it's important for us and those that provide care to know the smallest thing can be the most important thing, because just a pair of dentures changed that resident's life and his sister's life, where he was eating. He gained 10 pounds. He was happy. He was getting physical therapy, and it all started with a pair of dentures. And so, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us, but just let that sit with you and resonate with you. Nothing is too small. So at this time, I'll pass it on to Mr. Harris. He can introduce himself and give his story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiev Harris. I'm one of the newest members with becoming a program manager here with Empowered Aging Ombudsman. So it's a pleasure to be here with you guys now. A story that I wanted to share stems back also from the beginning of my work here nearly 3 years ago. with being put out into the field, into the territory of Alameda County, I came across a particular resident where I received an SOC. And as I read the SOC, it grabbed my
I'm sorry, can you explain what an SOC is real quick?
Yes, an SOC is a formal complaint that we receive from a facility, a family member, or an outside party with concerns or issues due to quality of care, neglect, or exploitation. Absolutely. So with going into this particular case, I read it and it grabbed my attention immediately. So I remember going out to this particular facility to see this resident, and I was taken aback by his appearance. In that moment, I remember feeling somewhat scared and frightened, and very heartfelt because of how he appeared. Now, this particular resident served in the military for over 15 years for our country. He also went on to pursue higher education with receiving his PhD. From there, he gave back to our community here in Alameda County, where he served as a property manager for several properties, low-income properties, that is, for the community here in Alameda County. While being in one of his facilities that he was covering at the time, a fire broke out. And so him being the program manager, he followed all of the protocols to get all of the families out of the building. Once all of the families were out of the building, he realized that there were 2 other families stuck in there. So him being the hero that he was, he ran back inside and risked his own life to save 2 other families, to bring them to safety. With doing that, he suffered second-degree burns, which caused him to have massive strokes, which also gave him a speech impairment due to the difficulties of his skin. So from there, he transitioned into skilled nursing facilities. From there, he was treated very poorly, he expressed. Now, let's remember, his communication was very impaired. He couldn't express himself due to his inability to effectively communicate verbally. So as he tried to express his concerns into the facilities, he was oftentimes looked over, never heard, never made to feel important. His independence was snatched from him. So from there, I got myself involved, and I sat down with him and asked him, what would he like to do? And this conversation took roughly 2.5 hours just to get a full story due to his speech impairment. But I dedicated that time to him. And within that conversation, tears began to roll from his face because he hasn't felt that sense of compassion and being heard in years. So from there, I said, hey, let me integrate myself into this and let's schedule a care conference. Now, a care conference is something that we do in the field where we get all parties involved to discuss the issue so we can come to a healthy resolution for both parties. So remind you, this care conference took place and it almost extended to 4 hours. Now, typically care conferences doesn't go that long, but this one did because of his speech impairments. So I made sure that he had the opportunity, the canvas, and the floor to express himself. And so with doing so, you would think that he had crazy expectations or crazy needs or things like that, but it wasn't. His only need and desire was to move to another county to be with his stepdaughter, a young lady in which he raised his entire life from a previous marriage. That's all he wanted. So from there, we were able to get the parties involved from a different county to get him transferred and to get him set up. And I shared this one because a lot of us, when we think of a hero, we may think of someone who comes from a Marvel story or someone personally that we know in our family. But this particular resident stood out. So when I think of a hero, I think of this particular person who risked his life to serve other people. And so I keep that in mind every day, and I implement that here with some of my staff in our program to be a hero, because you never know who you can save, and always go back for that one. So I just wanted to share that one with you guys.
That's a beautiful story. I don't know about any of the rest of you or anyone watching, but I am covered with goosebumps right now. And this is a perfect example, Kiev's story, Charmaine's story, about why we're doing this work, why it's so important for people to feel represented and to feel heard and to be able to share their stories. I thank you both for sharing these incredible stories. And we're going to turn it over to Dodi now, who's going to have a different perspective because of the community that she works with.
Yeah, but yeah, every time Kiev, I get teary. So I had to take my deep breaths, just just being able to empower a resident like that and listen to their voices, I think that's what we do best here at Empowered Aging, really, is to listen. And yeah, so when I think about stories, and specifically in our healthcare career pathway and the certified nursing assistant training that we hold currently at 2 sites in Contra Costa County, so at Mount Diablo Adult Education and at Opportunity Junction, it's the students' stories that resonate most and motivate me to do the work that I do. So the stories that come to mind regularly are those of 2 sets of siblings that we had go through the program. So one set entered and had a lot of challenges in their family dynamics and a good bit of educational trauma. One of the older sibling, she had gone through 7 different schools through her high school career. So normally a lot of folks have 1, maybe 2, but in 4 years, she got kind of pushed around into 7 different schools. And not being recognized for her passion, her perseverance. And she was an extremely intelligent, very strong-willed individual. And interestingly, one of the things that she shared was how the support from the healthcare career pathway team gave her the tools to deal with, challenging situations that she wouldn't have handled well before, because she would react, right? She would be triggered, things would come up, she would feel disrespected, because people a lot of times weren't listening to her voice, right? They were making assumptions about who she was and, where she came from, what she looked like, how she's presented herself. And so she felt like she learned a lot of strategies and got a lot of tools in her toolbox in the classroom and from her instructors and the staff, and from meeting with me sometimes as well. And so the example that she shared at towards the end of graduation, when folks asked, like, what was your most memorable experience? She actually shared how a resident in the facility, when she was in clinicals, actually made a lot of really awful racist comments to her. Like, the resident didn't want her in the room because she was a young Black woman. And she said normally she would have, her words, I would have acted out, right? Like, is what she said. But she was like, no, she's like, I stayed calm. She's like, I set a boundary. I let him know, it's not okay to talk to me that way. I'm here to take care of you, Mr. So-and-so. And, I want to do, what you need today. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you. And so she was like, I was able to set some boundaries, use my voice, but understand where he's coming from as a resident, and also take care of myself. She was like, I learned tools to take care of residents, but also just the self-care. So she, went to her instructor. That was really hard for her to have to deal with, right? It's not okay for someone to speak to another individual like that. And it did hurt her feelings, and it made her, have a lot of stuff come up. But she, instead of internalizing it and acting out and, maybe bottling it up, she went and talked with her instructor. She's able to take some self-care. She was able to voice her story. And eventually actually, had a good relationship with that resident throughout her clinical experience, because she set some boundaries, right? And her instructors and the staff there listened also to her when she said what happened. And they, reiterated, like, these are the expectations when you're in the residential facility of how we act with each other, with the folks that work here. Racist comments are not okay, right? Hate is not okay. And so she was able to also advocate for herself and others that this resident, right, we're there to take care of him, but he's not allowed, right, to have these kind of hateful, harmful comments. And so that really touched me, that she just really took on the tools, and it gave her a voice to realize, like, I'm super smart. I'm worthy of being respected in my educational journey, right? A lot of folks just overlooked her. Which is why she got pushed around a lot. I think people didn't really try to understand her and why she would react the way that she would. A lot of times when, situations come up with her and, her brother, for example, we talk with them and I'm like, hey, like, dude, this isn't okay. And he like, yeah, I know, Dodi, I know. And I was like, so what's going on? And he was like, he'd kind of give a surface answer. And I'm like, no, dude, like, really, what's going on? And like, for him, he was late, like, every day. And at first he was like, oh, I woke up late. And I'm like, well, you gotta set your alarm. And then the next conference we had, I'm like, dude, you're late again. Like, we got to make up this time, because we really look at restorative justice. And finally, come to find out, they were taking care of an individual that lived in their home. And every time he tried to leave for school, the person would ask for something else again. And so it was making him late. And I was like, why didn't you tell me you were taking care of this person and this is why you're late? It's not because you're sleeping in. And so we talked about, right, setting expectations, asking the person if they need something 10 minutes before he needed to leave, and just setting boundary, like, I'm leaving at this time. And if you need something, you're going to have to ask so-and-so, like, so they're still taken care of. And then he made up his time, and, they both graduated, have gone on, been CNAs for a long time now. They're in our first couple cohorts. And so for me, it's really how we meet folks where they're at in our work. And going into all the work that we do at Empowered Aging, it's done with compassion and thought of the humans that we serve. And so
it's an interesting point because it does carry over student to resident. And it's that same thing. It's about not making assumptions about the people that you're dealing with. And it's about understanding that every person does have a history and does have something that brought them to where they are. And some things in their background have shaped them into the person they are. So very good points, Dodi. Thanks for sharing that. Christina, let's hear from you now.
Hi, I'm Christina Farnham. I am the new program manager for Solano County. I recently took over Daunje Sanders' position. And a story that I'm going to share today is about a 90-year-old veteran who I was able to help get not get evicted from the facility he was at. This resident owed a lot of money. The facility had tried to take out his funds for his rent and the services there. But unfortunately, every time they would try to take the money out, there was insufficient funds in his account. And so the facility notified me to try to come up with a resolution to see if he, would take the help. And so I met with this resident and I was able to help him. He knew me from other people, and he really enjoyed talking with me and our other employees with Empowered Aging. And so I explained to him, the reason why I was visiting him and to see if we can come up with something. And he shared everything with me. He shared that he had promised his late wife that he would take care of his stepson. And his stepson was between the ages of 50 and 60 years old. And he was starting to have his own business in Portugal where he was living. But in the meantime, the resident was giving him money on a monthly basis, and it was a lot. It was, it was definitely affecting him, and he didn't realize it. So I was able to help the resident get with a fiduciary who was known in the community, and he interviewed him. The resident really, liked him. He was able to talk with him and felt comfortable. And so the resident ended up having the fiduciary take over his finances and become his power of attorney for health decisions. And so he would ask me if I could be involved, signing all the legal documents and making sure that everyone was on the same page of what he wanted. One of the biggest things that he wanted was to be buried in Arlington, Virginia. Since he, does have a military background, he was a colonel in the Air Force. And so in the meantime of getting all of this set up, there were a lot of issues going on with his stepson, calling and threatening him and calling and threatening the facility. He had even threatened myself, and, just making accusations that were just false. And, we try to explain to him on so many levels that we're here just to help the resident so he wouldn't get evicted. I mean, he's a 90-year-old veteran who, has worked so hard to get where he was at, and to see him, almost get evicted because he was giving money and, being, wanting to help his late wife financially help his son. We all had a conversation and said, this is what we're going to do. So the plan was the fiduciary was going to take over and pay for all of his bills, and any extra money that he had, he would just put it towards the funds of what he owed, or the balance that he owed from the facility. Again, the stepson was not happy, but they had to just stop accepting his phone calls from the facility and our office as well, and just explain, and again, just doing what we are trained to do, and that's to advocate for our residents in any kind of situation. So things ended up working out. He was not evicted. They did not serve him with an eviction notice or anything like that. So it made me feel incredible that I was able to be a part of this story and be able to just help this veteran that, served our country. And I felt, blessed to be able to do that. And so since then, he has passed. He did pass away during the pandemic, but I can say that he is buried where he wanted to be, in Arlington, Virginia. And the fiduciary did call me to let me know that everything went well, and that, he is where he wanted to be. And so, as an ombudsman, we don't always have successful stories like this, but, we try our best. We try to do what we can. And, most of the times they are, happy endings, but we know that's not reality. We are going to have some that just don't end up well, but we are here for, for our residents and for the community. And so thank you for listening to my story. And please, if you have any, questions or concerns or anything, please reach out to our office. Thank you. And
Thank you,
Daunje?
Christina. This is a perfect example of how some of the challenges that you might not think about when it comes to the kind of work we're doing, and the fact that you were personally just singled out by the stepson. That's a scary thing, but you powered through and you listened to the resident, which is the best possible thing and the only possible solution for us and the work that we're doing.
Wow, Christina, that's such an amazing story. So thankful that you shared it. I was sitting here just thinking, it's such a hard balance. I know the community often thinks that we're mandated reporters, but we're not. But we are governed by the Older Americans Act. We have this information on our website, and you can research it as well, but also governed by state and federal guidelines. It's oftentimes a really hard balance between the two. Like, you have the stepson, you had our resident that we're advocating for. We always have to stay focused and aligned in terms of what the resident want, and people, they really don't understand what we do. So for you to stay firm in your training and recognize how you needed to help the resident, I think it's so amazing. I want this to resonate with folks that he's 90 years old, and with the support of Christina, he was able to advocate for himself, where he's not evicted, he's not out in the street, and then he has someone managing his funds and his health decisions for him. I'm sure that people couldn't imagine, a 90-year-old, but he made those decisions for himself. And so that's what's so empowering. And I think your story, Christina, just brings home the complexity of the things that we do and how we have to just kind of balance ourselves. I think you handled yourself so well. It just gave me chills. It's just amazing. So thank you guys again for just taking us in. As we're sitting here, it's just resonating with us as well, the work that we do. I think these stories are so extremely important. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you, Charmaine. Thanks for reminding us all of that. I think it's a really good reminder. It's mandated. The training that all of the staff members that you're seeing here go through is extensive. They have to understand all the laws and the mandates and the requirements and the personal human side of all the work they're doing, and which is exactly the point of what we're talking about. Let's hear from Daunje, because again, a different perspective, different program. Daunje, what can you share?
Hi, I'm Daunje Sanders. I am now the Elder Justice Program Manager for Solano. I was the Ombudsman for Solano County for 3 years and passed it on to Christina. I want to share a story today of empowerment. I received a call from a resident, frantic. This was during the end stages of COVID when the facilities were starting to open back up to family and friends, but staffing was still an issue. So I received a call from this resident stating that he wasn't getting his therapy. They were short staffed, and he had goals he wanted to meet. He wanted to go back home, ride his motorcycles. He belonged to a motorcycle club. He loved old school cars and trucks. He wanted his therapy. Due to insurance issues, we had to appeal because of lack of staff. He didn't get his therapy in the allotted amount of time that Medicare allows you to. And so we had to go through an appeal. That was a process for him. He was starting to get depressed and just over the whole ordeal. We got him RNA therapy, which is where you get a CNA or a nurse to come to your bedside and do some therapy with you, but he didn't feel that was enough. So he reached out to his motorcycle club and they bought him a TV so that he could watch YouTube videos. Every time I would visit him, there were Amazon boxes of exercise equipment. So he got additional days of his therapy. He got his RNA therapy with the CNA, and he also did exercises on his own. And so I would come to visit him and he was never there. So I was assuming, okay, he is at a doctor's appointment or something like that. So I got another call from him telling me that he was having another issue because the facility administrator didn't want him parking his truck at the facility. So I said, well, truck? He's like, yeah. And so I said, okay, I'll be there later today because I didn't believe what I was hearing. I'm thinking, did something else happen with him during this time? So I go and I go to his room. He's not there. I had our intern with me as well. And so I said, okay, well, let's go visit another resident. We go out to the smoking area, and here he is pulling up in his truck. He had rehabilitated himself. And during this, he was advocating for other residents as well and empowering them to appeal the insurance decisions when their care was stopped, the therapy was stopped, letting them know their rights. He got online and was looking at different policies and different things. And so I would get calls from residents and they were telling me their insurance benefits and I wanted to appeal this. And, so just to see him advocate for himself, actually meet his goals, because right now he's in the process of going home. Still has his truck there. He actually have 2 cars there. Honestly, he does. But we explained to the administrator his rights, that he can run the vehicles. They tried to go through his physician and say, no, he can't drive. His doctor was like, he can drive. So right now we're just trying to get him the in-home care support that he needs. But his story is heroic to me, a story of triumph, because he didn't let anything stop him. And he took the knowledge that he gained and spread it through the facility, educated residents, and they all set out in his truck too, even around his truck during their smoking time to listen to music. So he just inspired me. Because at first I didn't know what to do. I'm like, he's driving. Wait, can he do that? But yeah, he can. And so that's the story I wanted to share.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it. I think that's a great
story.
It's really good. We're going to go to Tiffany again, another perspective kind of from the inside looking out. And Tiffany, what is this all meaning to you? How is it touching you?
Yeah, well, I'm Tiffany, the Administrative Services Manager, and I love the work that my coworkers do. I believe in the mission of advocacy, and so I support them fully in an administrative role behind the scenes. I'm not in the facilities, so I'm only able to know of the stories when they share them. They're great to hear. You guys are doing amazing work, hearing all of these stories and just the advocacy, the human nature, the humanity of the work, and the overall caring. I mean, it resonates and it reinforces why we do what we do. And I am in total support of this program. I love to hear your voices, hear these stories, and that's why we're here to serve. And that's why I'm here to be a part of the team. So you guys continue. I love to support you. I love to see it. And you guys keep up the great work. And I am so honored to just be a part of this, just from behind the scenes. You guys are amazing. And I mean it, like, you guys are awesome.
Tiffany, to be
Thank you.
fair, though, the work that everyone does out in the field could not be done without the internal support as well. So don't sell yourself short. You are a part of this team. Just saying,
Thank you.
every member of this team, every member of the team of Empowered Aging, the managers on the screen you're seeing now, and everyone else in our intake department, our MSW interns, our ombudsman support specialists, and anybody I'm not leaving, I'm not mentioning by title, is a critical part of this team. And the kind of work that everyone does to just, again, empower, remind of the humanity, protect and serve. And it's inspiring to me every day too. I'm not out in the field either. I have to think about every day in doing the executive director level things that I do, why it's so important to do it. So that's one reason we're doing this today. It's like, I think it's easy to forget, we meet numbers based on grants and contracts, and we follow mandates, we follow the laws. We do all of this as part of our jobs, but because we are human too, these are the things that touch us. See, these are the stories that we take with us in our everyday work. And when we talk to people in the community and share with them about what we do, we're sharing these stories. It's our jobs not only to protect, but to just bring the story out to the community, just to engage with people and share about the people we're serving. So thank you for the opportunity to do that today. May is Older Americans Month, so it's kind of a perfect time for us to highlight and bring light to the stories of people that we're serving. Again, you can check out our website to find opportunities about volunteering. You can learn about all of the different programs that were mentioned today. You can donate, of course, which we would highly, highly appreciate. And keep in touch with us. If you know someone living in long-term care, or an adult, for example, in Solano that needs some support, who isn't living in long-term care, reach out to us. If you're interested in becoming a student of our CNA through Healthcare Career Pathway program, reach out about that. We'll have all of our contact information alongside this one as it's going. You'll see those things now, and really just keep in touch with us. The next time we meet, we'll be doing another manager's live stream, and this one will be focused on a campaign we are launching in June called See Me, Hear Me. You'll learn more about this in our next live stream. Thank you again for everything you do to support us and the work that we're doing. Thank you for remembering that the people that you don't see on a regular basis outside of a long-term care facility still matter. They still have a story. And it's so critical that we, as people working with them, help to share that story. Again, thank you for the opportunity to do that. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.